Let me bring in Major Shah as well into the conversation. Major Shah, same question to you, sir, because it's been a while now, and of course, you know, these the photographs and the statements, the joint statements, all of that is very important. This is how new relations begin. This is how new blocks begin. But now, how do we move beyond stating the same thing over and over again when we say we want to strengthen peace and security in the Indo-Pacific? Like I said, many decades ago, two men came together and they said, okay, these are the 8 principles that we will now follow because this is what we feel needs to happen in this post World War II scenario. Given that we have moved beyond now, it's almost been 8 decades since the Atlantic Charter was signed, how do we now bring about new guiding principles? How do we enshrine these principles in a way that they can actually be then worked upon by bringing in new institutions that reflect the realities of today's world?
Reference to the Atlantic Charter after the World War, in fact, it needed to be signed at that time, and this Atlantic Charter did come about that time. So I think it's also a time right now where a new charter, similar charter, can perhaps come up, and not just come up, not just by words, not just by saying, but by action. And India always believes in actions. India leads the way through actions. Like, for example, I'll give you a small example. When the Turkey earthquake took place recently, Turkey and Syria earthquake, India was the first one to react. And they sent straight away. They mobilized the NDRF, the army, the medical reps. They were there, the rescue teams were there straight away. Whenever there is a global crisis anywhere, India is always there to help. Whether it concerns India or not, India is always there to help. Yes, that's a different thing. Like any other nation, we will give first priority to our own people. And then, of course, thereafter, the humanity comes first for India. Be it the Afghan crisis on 15th August 2021 when Taliban came there in the government. And that time, our aircraft went and bailed out a lot of people from there. From Afghanistan, Ukraine crisis, Operation Ganga, very successful. In fact, never you can see two countries which are at war, stopping the war for a time being a humanitarian corridor happening because of the intervention of a third country. Similarly, Devika, like I'll give an example, I'll give an analogy of if you tell a child that beta read books, the child may not read them, but the child will not listen to you, but the child will follow what you do, your actions. So because actions speak louder than words, and a picture speaks 1,000 words also at the same time. So when you actually do it, a child will see you reading a book, the child will read a book. A habit, unfortunately, many people it's missing from nowadays. But again, similarly, when India does a diplomatic meeting, a high-level meeting like G20, like the Quad, we have the Rice and dialogue at the same time, simultaneously. So many things were happening. We had the most ever diplomat visits last year. Around March, April, India saw a flux of diplomats, global leaders coming and looking up to India and coming up to India. So when we actually come up, we actually take the lead by leading by personal example. It makes a very, very big difference. And again, I'll give you a good sign. For the first time after the war, we had a US and Russia actually meeting face to face. So that's a different thing. The Russian spokesperson said there was no negotiation happened and they were meeting while standing. But the very fact that they actually met in one room, it was a very, very good sign, a positive sign. We cannot expect a change overnight, but certainly we're on the right track. And by India leading the G20, I can assure you, I can vouch with conviction on 1st December, ever since we got the presidency of G20, we can see India going in a very fine way. I'll quickly conclude by quoting these numbers, Devika, and these are not the numbers issued by the government or anyone. These are the UNO numbers by the World Bank, by global organizations. In 1750, India was contributing to 1/4 of the GDP of the world. Thereafter, from 1947 till now, we've had $950 billion of FDI. 162 countries have invested into India. Now, when countries, and in the last 90 months, that is precise 7.5 years, in the last 7.5 years, our GDP, our FDI has gone up. It is now over $550 billion, which means how fast India is growing, how far India has taken the lead. And when people, the foreign countries, like these 162 countries, when FDI is invested into a country, it does not mean they're only investing dollars or the money. It means they're imposing their faith in the leadership, their future, their prospects, the potential of the country. They can foresee the potential of a country to grow. So when India takes a lead with the faith of all the world, all the world powers, it's really, I'm sure something certain is going to come out of it. Many times we see in meetings, there's only Angrezi, there's only talks, there's only good fun and games, but nothing really happens. But here, there are things moving on ground. So I feel very, very proud when I see India leading the way from the front, Devika.
Absolutely. Major Shah, thank you for joining us.